on, everyone? It is Jaden and our resident expert Caleb here, back with another episode of Fantasy Tomorrow. I know you missed us. We're getting pretty deep into the 2021 NFL offseason and leading up to the draft. I think it's time just to kind of get up to date with who's switched teams, who's retired, and everything before the draft actually comes. So, Caleb, what names have we seen retired?
Yeah, so a few notable players have retired. Fantasy-wise, and ones that actually would have a fantasy impact. First off, Drew Brees, of course. He had a Hall of Fame career with the Saints, but he's retired, and that's going to basically affect the entire Saints offense. So whether they move up in the draft and draft one of those first-round quarterbacks, whether they leave it in the hands of Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but it will likely affect the values of course, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So definitely pay attention to what happens there. And then also Phillip Rivers retired. He's had a great career too. That's going to affect the Colts. And the Colts are definitely going to look a little bit different without Phillip Rivers slinging the ball around. And then finally also Julian Edelman retired. He really had an iconic run with the Patriots. But he's really been limited the last few seasons by injury. So he wasn't really fantasy startable anyways last year, but the Patriots passing game is definitely going to be a little different without him.
So those sound like some pretty big names to me, but I'm sure they all had good seasons and we wish them well. So now let's just kind of dive into which quarterbacks have we seen switch teams this year.
Yeah, so quite a few actually. It's been an exciting offseason. First off is Matthew Stafford. He got traded to the Los Angeles Rams. And that's likely going to boost not only his own fantasy value, but also the fantasy value for the entire Rams offense. I really like both Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods to really have a good season with Matthew Stafford now under center. And the other part of that trade was Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff was the quarterback for the Rams, but now he got sent over to Detroit. So he's going to find himself in a kind of a tough situation in Detroit. They're rebuilding. They don't really have a ton of really good pass catchers other than like TJ Hawkinson. I wouldn't really have a whole lot of confidence in the fantasy startability of any Lions player. Also, Carson Wentz, when it got traded, he got traded to the Colts from the Eagles, and he's going to be a bit of a reclamation project for the Colts, and a bit of a risk to invest heavily in. Sam Darnold also got traded, lots of trades this offseason. He got traded to the Panthers. He's likely their new starting quarterback. It'll be interesting to see how he does in Carolina. He's surrounded by a talented group of pass catchers there. And they've all proven, too, that they can produce without having a star quarterback. So I wouldn't worry too much about the Panthers' offense. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he was acquired by the Washington football team. And he's really going to be a bit of a gunslinger in Washington. He should actually provide quite a spark for that offense, especially with Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson. There should be a pretty fun offense to watch. And then finally, Andy Dalton. He got picked up by the Chicago Bears. So there's no more Mitch Trubisky in Chicago. It's Dalton. He's now their quarterback one, apparently. I don't think this offense is going to look very different in 2021 than it was in 2020. And really the only person I would want to have on my fantasy team that's catching passes there is Allen Robinson. He should be fine, but probably not going to be a great offense.
Well, I'm excited to see what these quarterbacks do in their new homes. Now let's look at running backs. Do you got any notable running backs for us that switch teams?
Yeah, so quite a few switch teams. First, Kenyon Drake. He's probably the biggest name one. He got picked up by the Raiders. He's going to end up splitting touches with Josh Jacobs, so that kind of hurts both of their values, limits both of their upsides because they're going to be in quite the timeshare. Then James Conner, he got picked up by the Cardinals, and he's likely going to fill that role that Kenyon Drake had for the Cardinals last year. Again, he'll probably be splitting touches a little bit too with Chase Edmonds, so that'll be interesting to see. Mike Davis, he's a running back. He got he got picked up by the Atlanta Falcons, and he could actually end up being the most reliable running back for the Falcons. It's kind of a shallow running back room right now before the draft, so it'll be interesting to see what the Falcons do, but I like him. Then Philip Lindsay, he signed with the Texans coming from the Denver Broncos, but that's a team that has a lot of problems and a lot of running backs right now. They also picked up Mark Ingram, so basically they have a three-headed monster in that Texans backfield between Lindsay, Ingram, and David Johnson, so I don't really like any of those players. It just does not seem good at all. And then finally, the only other fantasy notable one is Jamal Williams. He signed with the Lions, and he's likely going to end up being the backup to DeAndre Swift. I said earlier that I wouldn't want any Lion on my fantasy team next year, but DeAndre Swift seems like he's going to be a good one, and Williams will be a good handcuff to have for Swift.
Okay, so now on to the wide receivers.
Yeah, so first off, Kenny Golladay, he got a big payday signing with the New York Giants. He's likely going to be their number one wide receiver, and his production is going to be very reliant on how Daniel Jones does. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch. Will Fuller signed with the Dolphins. He's likely going to be their big play guy. That should be a fun offense to watch, see if Tua is able to develop at all in Miami. Corey Davis was picked up by the Jets. That should be a good signing for them. He should be able to help out that rookie quarterback, whoever they take in the draft. Probably is going to be Zach Wilson, but I like Corey Davis there. Marvin Jones signed with the Jaguars, which will be a good place for him. He'll be able to help Trevor Lawrence out plenty. Curtis Samuel was signed by the Washington football team. He should be a perfect number 2 wide receiver to really kind of take some of the heat off of Terry McLaurin. I think that's going to be a really fun offense to watch. Sammy Watkins left the Chiefs. He's going to the Ravens. He could be kind of a fun player, and he's a really productive player when he's not hurt, but he's hurt very often, as we saw in Kansas City. So can't put too much trust in him, especially when you're going from the passing ability of Patrick Mahomes to the passing abilities of Lamar Jackson. Love Lamar Jackson. It's not the greatest passer, not great for the fantasy production. John Brown signed with the Raiders. He could actually end up being their best receiver in 2021. And then finally, Nelson Aguilar, who was a Raider, he ended up signing with the Patriots. But I wouldn't put too much trust in him either, especially if Cam Newton is still their quarterback. He just wasn't that great of a passer last year either. So, yeah, definitely a lot to take in wide receivers, or a lot of movement for wide receivers this offseason.
Most definitely. It sounds like a lot of movement. And now it's time, obviously, for my favorite position. Couldn't make this video without saying that. Caleb, who have we seen switch teams and the tight end position?
First off, Hunter Henry, he signed with the Patriots. He should be a good check down or red zone option for the Patriots. But the problem is that the Patriots also signed Jonnu Smith as another tight end. So the Patriots have 2 really good tight ends right now, and they're going to be probably competing quite a bit for targets, for looks, for catches, whatever. And it kind of limits the upside of both of them, but definitely they probably will be on plenty of fantasy teams when it comes up time for the football season. Jared Cook, he signed with the Chargers. He's going to fill in for Hunter Henry since Hunter Henry's now a Patriot. He could be a pretty good red zone threat for the Chargers, especially with how good that offense is looking under Justin Herbert. And then finally, Gerald Everett, he was with the Rams. He got picked up by the Seattle Seahawks, and he really produced well when given opportunities in the past, and I think he could do well in this offense. The problem is that Russell Wilson doesn't really have a good history of targeting and using their tight ends, so I would be cautious with that, but he could be a bit of a sleeper.
All right, guys, so there you have it. We have seen so much movement already in the NFL 2021 offseason, and this is before the draft has even happened, okay? So I'm sure that we are going to see so much more. If you guys want to keep staying up to date and keep preparing for the 2021 season, go on ahead and subscribe to us. Give this video a thumbs up, and please let us know if you have anything else that we want to talk about. It means so much to us. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and we can't wait to talk the draft and everything else with you. We're excited for the 2021 season, and I hope you are too. Caleb, thanks again for all your time. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.